57 photographs. That's all it took to blow open one of the most protected secrets of the 20th century. A man walked into a newspaper office in London carrying images of the inside of a nuclear weapons factory, one the Israeli government had denied existed for nearly 30 years. The newspaper published. 6 days before the story went to print, intelligence agents kidnapped him from Rome. He spent the next 11.5 years in a cell the size of a bathroom, alone, no contact, no radio, no television. His name was Mordechai Vanunu. The program he exposed still operates today. The Negev Nuclear Research Center sits in the desert outside Dimona, in southern Israel. Beneath it, according to 57 photographs published by the Sunday Times in October 1986, lie at least 6 underground levels of active nuclear production. Those photographs suggested Israel had accumulated enough plutonium to construct between 100 and 200 nuclear warheads, a stockpile potentially comparable in size to Pakistan's entire declared arsenal, which Islamabad built openly and paid for with years of crippling international sanctions. The United Kingdom, France, and China together hold an estimated 800 warheads, all 3 internationally recognized nuclear states under the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Israel has never been formally recognized as one. It is 1948. The State of Israel is declared in May, born from the aftermath of the Holocaust, the murder of 6 million Jewish people, 1/3 of the global Jewish population. David Ben-Gurion, Israel's first prime minister, draws one direct conclusion: national survival can never again depend on the goodwill of other states. Within months, Ben-Gurion authorizes a secret committee to investigate nuclear capability. He appoints Ernst David Bergman, a German-born chemist who had fled Nazi persecution, to lead it. Bergman would become the founding architect of Israel's nuclear program. In 1953, Israel signs a civilian nuclear cooperation agreement with the United States under Eisenhower's Atoms for Peace initiative. But by 1956, Ben-Gurion has turned elsewhere. France, sharing a common adversary in Egypt's Nasser following the Suez Crisis, agrees in secret to provide Israel with a nuclear reactor and a plutonium reprocessing plant. The agreement is formalized in 1957. Construction of Dimona begins immediately. By 1960, American U-2 aircraft have photographed the site. Israeli officials tell Washington it is a textile factory. When that fails, they call it a peaceful research reactor. The U.S. State Department accepts this and takes no formal action. According to independent analysts, Dimona produced its first weapons-grade plutonium as early as 1962, 6 years after construction began, entirely without international inspection. November 1968. A cargo vessel called the Scheersberg A departs Antwerp, Belgium, carrying 200 metric tons of uranium ore, officially consigned to a company in Genoa, Italy. The ship never arrives. It disappears for days in the Mediterranean. When it reappears, its entire cargo has vanished. The operation, later named Operation Plumbat, was attributed to Israeli intelligence by multiple independent researchers. 200 tons of yellowcake is sufficient for approximately 10 nuclear warheads. That is more uranium than Pakistan was permitted to acquire in any single year during the decade it spent under sustained U.S. sanctions for pursuing its own program. The Scheersberg A was not an isolated case. Between 1959 and 1965, a processing plant in Apollo, Pennsylvania, known as NUMEC, lost more than 100 kilograms of highly enriched uranium. The CIA and FBI both opened formal inquiries. Declassified CIA documents later indicated the material had been diverted to Israel. The investigations were closed without conclusive public findings. By 1968, classified U.S. intelligence had privately concluded that Israel had already crossed the nuclear threshold. President Lyndon Johnson was formally briefed. No public statement was issued. No sanctions followed. The Non-Proliferation Treaty opened for international signature that same year. Israel declined to sign. The world said nothing. In September 1986, a 32-year-old Israeli nuclear technician named Mordechai Vanunu arrived at the Sunday Times in London carrying 57 photographs taken inside the Dimona facility. Vanunu had worked at the Negev Nuclear Research Center for 9 years, from 1976 to 1985. The photographs showed equipment consistent with the production of both plutonium and lithium-6 deuteride. Lithium-6 deuteride is not a material found in basic fission weapons. It is specific to thermonuclear devices, hydrogen bombs. The infrastructure Vanunu documented was not a research program. It was an industrial weapons production operation. The Sunday Times engaged Frank Barnaby, a nuclear physicist and former director of SIPRI, to assess the evidence. Barnaby concluded Israel had the capacity to produce 40 kilograms of weapons-grade plutonium per year, sufficient for 10 to 12 new warheads annually. No government has formally disputed those figures. The newspaper published on October 5, 1986. By that date, Vanunu had already been removed from Europe. 6 days before publication, he was approached in London by a woman confirmed by Israeli court documents to be Mossad officer Cheryl Bentoff. She invited him to Rome. On September 30, 1986, Vanunu was sedated in a Rome apartment and transported back to Israel by ship. He was tried in a closed court, convicted of treason and espionage, sentenced to 18 years, 11.5 in complete solitary confinement. Vanunu was released from Shikma prison in April 2004, having served his full 18-year sentence. He had spent over a decade in a cell, measuring 3.5 by 2 meters, smaller than a bathroom in most homes across South Asia, with no contact, no radio, no television. Upon release, Israeli authorities prohibited him from leaving Israel, speaking to foreign journalists, or approaching any foreign embassy. As of 2023, those restrictions remain in force. He has been arrested multiple times for alleged violations. The Dimona reactor was significantly reduced in operation after 2021 due to aging infrastructure, a facility that had run for over 6 decades without a single international inspection. Israel's policy of nuclear ambiguity, first articulated by Prime Minister Levi Eshkol in the 1960s, remains official state doctrine. Israel neither confirms nor denies possession of nuclear weapons. As of 2023, SIPRI estimates 90 warheads. The International Atomic Energy Agency holds no inspection mandate over any Israeli nuclear facility. As of 2023, 191 nations have signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Israel has not. The only nuclear-armed state in the Middle East has operated outside that legal framework, without sanction, for more than 5 decades. Vanunu told the world in 1986. He served 18 years for it. The investigation triggered no sanctions, no IAEA mandate, no change to Israel's treaty status. The United States privately confirmed this as early as 1968. That finding was classified. The arsenal continued to grow. The question the facts make unavoidable is not whether Israel has nuclear weapons. The question is, why has the system built to prevent exactly this never been applied here?